Learning English can be scary for a lot of people. I've spoken to so many learners who feel anxious the moment they try to speak, read, or even think in English. They worry about making mistakes, sounding silly, or not being understood. And I get it, fear is real. But here's the exciting part: fear doesn't have to stop you. In fact, it can be turned into one of your greatest advantages. You can transform that fear into excitement, energy, and motivation. And today, I want to show you exactly how. Let me start with a story. A student I once worked with, let's call her Lena, was terrified of speaking English. She would freeze in conversations, barely say a word, and even avoided situations where she might have to use English. She felt embarrassed and frustrated because she knew her fear was holding her back. But we didn't start by trying to get rid of her fear. That's the key. Fear isn't your enemy, it's a signal. It's telling you something important is happening here. Pay attention. Instead of running from fear, Lina learned to acknowledge it and then turn it into curiosity and excitement. And once she did that, everything changed. The first step to turning fear into excitement is understanding it. Fear is your brain's way of protecting you. When you try something new, your brain interprets it as a challenge or even a threat. That's why your heart races, your palms sweat, and your mind goes blank. But here's the secret: that same physiological response can be used to create energy. Think about it. When you feel nervous before speaking English, your body is ready to act. You just need to direct that energy in the right way. I remember my own early days learning English. I would get so anxious before speaking, especially in front of native speakers. My heart would pound, my hands would shake, and I felt like I couldn't even breathe. But then I had a small breakthrough. Instead of seeing that fear as something negative, I started telling myself, this is excitement. My body is getting ready to perform. And slowly, the fear turned into adrenaline, a force I could use to focus, speak more clearly, and actually enjoy the process. One technique that really helps is reframing your thoughts. Instead of thinking, I'm terrible at English, I'll fail, try thinking, I'm about to learn something exciting. Every mistake is a step forward. Notice the difference in how your body reacts to these thoughts. Your brain can't tell the difference between fear and excitement. They feel almost identical. So why not choose excitement? Why not harness that energy to push yourself forward instead of holding back? Another key is small, consistent steps. When Lena started, she didn't jump into long conversations or try to memorize huge lists of vocabulary. She started with tiny challenges, saying one new word out loud each day, introducing herself in English for 10 seconds, or repeating simple sentences in front of the mirror. Each small step created a sense of achievement, and that feeling of progress slowly replaced her fear with curiosity and excitement. Let me give you another example. Imagine you're about to give a short talk in English. Naturally, your fear spikes. But instead of fighting it, try labeling it. This is just my body getting ready to perform. This is excitement. Then focus on one small thing, maybe pronouncing the first sentence clearly. Once you succeed in that, your confidence grows and the excitement builds naturally. Fear is still there, yes, but it no longer controls you. You flipped the switch. And here's something most people don't realize. Mistakes are actually your best friends in this process. Every time you stumble over a word, mispronounce a sentence, or get misunderstood, your brain is learning. It's like practice for a muscle. Each mistake makes your English stronger. When you reframe fear as a signal that learning is happening, you start to see mistakes as opportunities rather than threats. And that shift alone can transform fear into excitement. I also want to talk about mindset. Fear thrives when your mindset is fixed. You believe you're either good at English or not. But a growth mindset changes everything. It says, I can improve. I will learn. Every attempt matters. When you adopt a growth mindset, fear becomes a tool rather than a barrier. It's the spark that tells you you're about to grow. And excitement comes naturally from that perspective. Another practical tip is to pair English learning with things you genuinely enjoy. If you love music, watch English songs with lyrics and sing along. If you love stories, read short, exciting English stories or watch shows that thrill you. When fear and excitement exist together, the enjoyment helps shift your focus from worry to curiosity. You start to look forward to English, and the fear gradually becomes part of the fun. And here's a little trick I teach my students. Create a fear to excitement script. Write down the situations in English that make you nervous, maybe talking to a stranger, joining a group chat, or presenting in English. Then, next to each fear, write how you can turn it into excitement. For example, I'm nervous about speaking to a stranger becomes I'm excited to try my English and see how much I can communicate. Every time you revisit the script, you train your brain to reframe fear as opportunity. Let's not forget about the body. Physical actions can influence mental state. Standing tall, smiling, taking deep breaths, all of these signal to your brain that you're confident, capable, and ready. Even if your mind is screaming fear, your body can push you into a state of excitement. Lena found this so helpful she would take 3 deep breaths, smile, and repeat her sentences out loud, and suddenly the fear felt manageable, even energizing. And one last story before we go deeper into exercises. There was a student named Ravi. He dreaded English-speaking tests. His fear was so strong that he would freeze, forget words, and sometimes even panic. We decided to approach it differently. Instead of trying to calm the fear, he acknowledged it, celebrated the adrenaline it brought, and treated it like a game. How many words can I use in this sentence? He asked himself. Suddenly, the test became exciting. His focus sharpened, his speaking improved, and he began enjoying what he once feared. That's the magic of turning fear into excitement. Over the next sections, I want you to start noticing your own fears in English. Write them down, label them, reframe them, and then take tiny, consistent steps that turn those fears into small victories. Every step builds momentum. Every moment of excitement reinforces your confidence. And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes to feel energized rather than anxious when using English. The journey from fear to excitement is not instant, it's a process. But every time you embrace a challenge, make a mistake, or push yourself just a little further, you're rewiring your brain. Fear stops being a wall and starts being a fuel. You begin to anticipate learning, to feel alive while practicing, and to enjoy the adventure that is mastering English. And here's the beautiful part: once fear turns into excitement, everything changes. Your learning accelerates. You speak more, listen more, and engage more. Mistakes no longer feel threatening, they feel like clues, and your confidence grows naturally. Fear, which once held you back, becomes your secret weapon. Now, let's talk about another powerful way to turn fear into excitement: curiosity. Curiosity is like the secret ingredient that transforms anxiety into energy. When you feel afraid of speaking English, instead of focusing on what could go wrong, shift your attention to what you can discover. Ask yourself, what new word can I learn today? What new phrase can I try? Who can I communicate with and learn from? That simple shift turns fear into an adventure. I remember a student named Omar. He used to dread English conversations because he feared making mistakes. One day, I encouraged him to approach every interaction like a mini experiment. Try one new word. See if the other person understands. Observe what happens. Suddenly, his fear was replaced with curiosity. He wasn't worried about failing. He was excited to learn and experiment. And his progress skyrocketed. Another technique is celebrating small wins. When you're learning English, every small success is a victory. Pronouncing a difficult word correctly, understanding a sentence without translation, or using a phrase naturally in conversation, these are all wins. Celebrate them. A small victory can release dopamine in your brain, which makes learning enjoyable and reinforces excitement. Fear can't survive in an environment where you consistently celebrate progress. Here's a fun exercise you can try. Each time you feel nervous or anxious about English, write down one thing you're excited to try. For example, I'm excited to order food in English at a restaurant. Or, I'm excited to introduce myself to a new friend in English. Then, take that action even if it's small. The fear will still be there, but the excitement will start to dominate. Your brain will start associating English not with stress, but with new experiences and fun. Let's also talk about role models and inspiration. Watching or listening to people who have succeeded in English despite their fears can be incredibly motivating. When you see someone stumble, make mistakes, and still keep going, it reminds you that fear is normal, but it doesn't have to stop you. Personally, I love watching stories of people who learned English later in life. Their struggles, their mistakes, and their perseverance are inspiring. It reminds me and everyone listening that fear is temporary, but progress is permanent. And here's another powerful tippy. Change your environment. Surround yourself with positivity and support. Join English learning communities, practice with encouraging people, or even listen to English content that excites you: songs, stories, podcasts. When your environment supports your learning, fear diminishes and excitement naturally grows. Lena, the student I mentioned earlier, found that joining a supportive online English group completely transformed her attitude. Suddenly, she looked forward to speaking even when she made mistakes. Another story I love comes from a friend named May. She used to freeze whenever she tried to speak English in meetings. Her fear was intense. But one day, she decided to gamify her learning. Every time she spoke, she gave herself points for effort, clarity, and trying new vocabulary. She started challenging herself to earn higher points each day. What was once terrifying became fun. Fear turned into excitement because she was engaged in a playful challenge. And that's a mindset shift you can use to turn practice into a game. And the energy shifts from fear to excitement naturally. I also want to emphasize visualization. Picture yourself speaking English confidently, enjoying conversations, and successfully expressing your ideas. Visualization prepares your brain to handle real life situations. Your body responds as if it's actually happening. And when the moment arrives, you're more likely to feel excited rather than afraid. Lena and Omar both used this technique before presentations or conversations, and it helped them channel nervous energy into performance. Now, let's address something important. Fear will never completely disappear, and it doesn't need to. The goal isn't to eliminate fear, it's to harness it. Fear is energy. Excitement is energy. Your job is to decide which one drives your actions. Next time your heart races or your palms sweat while speaking English, remind yourself, this is excitement. I'm ready to learn and grow. That mental cue alone can transform a fearful experience into an enjoyable one. And here's a practical exercise to make this real. Each day for 1 week, identify one situation in English that makes you nervous. Write down why it excites you to face that situation. Take one small action toward it. Speak a word, a sentence, or listen actively. Reflect on what you learned or enjoyed about the experience. At first, the fear will still be there, but as you repeat this process, your brain rewires itself. Fear becomes a companion rather than an obstacle, and excitement becomes the dominant feeling. Finally, remember this. Every time you turn fear into excitement, you're building confidence, resilience, and momentum in your English learning. It's a cycle. Excitement fuels action, action builds confidence, confidence reduces fear, and the loop repeats. Over time, English stops feeling intimidating and starts feeling like an adventure. Mistakes no longer feel threatening, they feel like stepping stones. Conversations, presentations, and reading all become opportunities for exploration. So the next time you feel nervous or afraid about English, don't run away. Lean in, acknowledge the fear, transform it into curiosity, excitement, and energy. Celebrate every small win. Gamify your practice. Visualize success. Surround yourself with support. And remember, fear is not a stop sign. It's a green light telling you that something amazing is about to happen. So, as we start to wrap up, I want you to take a moment and really think about your relationship with English. How often has fear held you back? How often have you avoided speaking, reading, or writing because of that nervous feeling? It's normal, it happens to everyone. But here's the incredible truth. Fear is not your enemy. It's a signal, a guide, and most importantly, a source of energy that you can transform into excitement. Think back to all the stories we shared today. Lena finding joy in small steps, Omar experimenting with new words, May turning practice into a game, and countless others who embraced fear instead of running from it. What did they all have in common? They didn't wait for fear to disappear. They acknowledged it, embraced it, and consciously chose excitement over anxiety. That's the mindset that turns fear into fuel. And here's something I want you to remember. Progress doesn't come from being fearless. It comes from taking action despite fear. Every time you speak a new word, try a new sentence, or participate in an English conversation, you are rewiring your brain. You are teaching yourself that fear doesn't stop you, it energizes you. Each small step compounds into confidence, fluency, and a sense of mastery. One last story I love is about a student named Carlos. He dreaded English classes for years. Every time he had to speak, his stomach would twist and his mind would go blank. But he decided to approach it differently. He treated fear like a challenge, a puzzle to solve. Every time he felt nervous, he said to himself, "This is excitement. Let's see what I can do." Slowly, he began enjoying English. Mistakes didn't scare him, they intrigued him. Conversations became opportunities to explore. And by the end of the year, he was speaking confidently, something he never imagined possible when fear dominated him. The key takeaway is simple: fear is energy, and energy is power. By acknowledging fear, reframing it as excitement, and taking small, consistent actions, you can transform your English learning journey. You can stop dreading it and start anticipating it. You can go from hesitation to curiosity, from anxiety to confidence, from fear to joy. So, the next time you feel that familiar nervousness rising, your heart racing, your palms sweating, your mind overthinking, pause and remind yourself, this is excitement. I'm about to grow. I'm about to learn. Take one small step, speak one sentence, try one new word, and celebrate that victory. Do it again tomorrow, and again the day after. Over time, you'll find that English is no longer intimidating, it's exhilarating. Remember, every word you speak, every sentence you try, every small interaction builds momentum. Fear may still appear, but excitement will always outshine it. You're not just learning English, you're transforming your relationship with it. You're turning challenges into opportunities, mistakes into lessons, and fear into your most powerful ally. And that, my friends, is the magic of turning fear into excitement. Your journey with English doesn't have to be stressful. It can be adventurous, joyful, and energizing. Embrace fear, channel it, and let excitement guide you. Every step forward, no matter how small, is proof that you are capable, resilient, and ready to succeed. So go ahead, speak, practice, explore, make mistakes, and most importantly, enjoy every moment of the process. Your fear is just the beginning of your excitement, and your excitement is the beginning of your fluency. Now, let's dive into another technique that turns fear into excitement, embracing challenges instead of avoiding them. One of the biggest reasons people fear English is that they try to stay in their comfort zone. They only read simple texts, avoid speaking, or stick to familiar phrases. But growth happens when you step slightly beyond what feels safe. Every time you try something new, even if it's just a slightly longer sentence or a more complex word, you're telling your brain, I can handle this. That's where excitement comes from. I remember a student, Rena, who was terrified of joining English group discussions. At first, she wouldn't speak at all, just listening quietly while everyone else talked. But then we started small. Her first challenge was to ask just one question in the group. Her heart was racing, but she did it. The next week, she tried 2 sentences. And the week after, she shared a short story about her day. Each small challenge was a mini adventure. Her fear didn't disappear overnight, but it transformed into curiosity and energy. She began to look forward to speaking because every challenge became a chance to learn something exciting. Another tip that works wonders is tracking your progress visually. Sometimes fear grows because we feel stuck, and don't see improvement. But when you track your achievements, no matter how small, it becomes exciting to see how far you've come. You can use a journal, a notebook, or even a simple checklist. Write down every new word you learn, every conversation you have, every sentence you try. When fear arises, you can look back and say, "Look at all I've done. I'm capable of more than I thought." That sense of progress naturally turns fear into excitement. And let's not forget using your imagination. Fear often exaggerates the worst case scenarios in your mind. You imagine making mistakes, being judged, or failing completely. But you can flip this by imagining the best case scenario instead. Visualize yourself speaking English confidently, having fun, and being understood. Picture people smiling, enjoying the conversation, or appreciating your effort. This simple mental exercise changes your emotional state. Fear turns into anticipation, and your brain starts looking forward to the experience instead of dreading it. Here's another practical exercise: the fear log. Each time you feel anxious about English, write it down. Note the situation, your feelings, and why you're afraid. Then, next to it, write one way to turn that fear into excitement. For example, "I'm nervous about ordering coffee in English" becomes, "I'm excited to practice my English and connect with someone new." Over time, your log becomes a powerful tool to reframe fear as opportunity. Let's also talk about embracing humor and playfulness. Fear often makes people overly serious, which increases tension. But if you allow yourself to laugh at mistakes or approach English as a playful experiment, the experience becomes enjoyable. For example, try making funny sentences, silly tongue twisters, or even role-playing with friends. The energy you get from laughter and play transforms fear into curiosity and excitement. Lena started using this technique, and it completely changed her learning experience. Suddenly, she looked forward to English because it felt like a game rather than a test. Another story I love is about a student named Samir. He dreaded English presentations and would freeze in front of an audience. Instead of trying to remove the fear, we reframed it. He started imagining the presentation as a performance, like acting in a play. His nervous energy became stage energy. He began practicing intonation, gestures, and facial expressions. By the time the presentation came, fear had turned into excitement. He didn't just survive the experience, he enjoyed it and learned more than he ever had before. And here's a deeper point. Your mindset around mistakes defines how fear affects you. Fear thrives when mistakes feel catastrophic. But if you see mistakes as data feedback, clues, and lessons, fear becomes fuel. Every mispronunciation, every forgotten word, every awkward pause becomes an opportunity to improve. That's the real magic of turning fear into excitement. It shifts your brain from avoidance to action, from doubt to curiosity, from worry to engagement. Finally, let's discuss celebrating milestones. Big or small, every milestone in English learning is a victory. Pronouncing a difficult word correctly, completing a short story, having a 5-minute conversation, these are all wins. Celebrate them. Post them in your journal, tell a friend, or even reward yourself. When you celebrate progress, your brain associates English with positive emotions, excitement, and achievement rather than stress and fear. Over time, these strategies, curiosity, challenges, visualization, playful practice, reframing mistakes, and celebrating progress, combine to create a cycle. fear shows up, you acknowledge it. You take action. You learn something. You celebrate. Fear becomes excitement. Excitement fuels action. Action builds confidence. Confidence reduces fear. And the cycle repeats, growing stronger every day. Now, let's explore another strategy that really helps turn fear into excitement. Preparing in a way that makes fear manageable. One of the reasons fear gets so big is uncertainty. When you don't know what's coming, your brain fills in the gaps with worst-case scenarios. But when you prepare, you reduce uncertainty, and suddenly, fear becomes manageable and even energizing. For example, if you're nervous about speaking English in a conversation, think ahead about topics you might discuss. Learn a few key phrases, prepare questions, or memorize a short story about yourself. That preparation gives you confidence. And the energy that was once fear now becomes excitement, the thrill of applying what you know. I remember a student named Aisha. She was terrified of talking to foreigners online. Her fear was so strong that she would freeze before even starting a conversation. But when we spent a few minutes each day preparing small scripts, phrases, and questions, her fear gradually transformed. She began looking forward to chats because she knew she had tools to succeed. The nervous energy she used to feel became excitement for each interaction. Another incredibly effective technique is tracking and celebrating risk-taking. Fear usually grows when we stay too comfortable. But every time you take a small risk, like speaking to a stranger, ordering food in English, or trying a new phrase, you should acknowledge it. Write it down, mark it as a win, or share it with a friend. Each act of courage builds confidence, which naturally turns fear into excitement. Let's talk about body language and physical cues. Fear often manifests in your posture, your voice, or your facial expressions. But you can flip this. Stand tall, smile, take a deep breath, and open your chest. Speak slowly and clearly. When your body projects confidence, your mind starts to believe it. That's why actors, performers, and public speakers use similar techniques. They're using their bodies to turn fear into performance energy. You can do the same with English learning. And here's something powerful I want you to remember. Fear can become your guide, not your enemy. When you feel nervous about a new word, a sentence, or a conversation, that's a signal that you're about to grow. It's your brain saying, pay attention. You're stretching yourself. By interpreting fear as a sign of opportunity, your mindset shifts from avoiding English to approaching it with curiosity. Let's add another layer: peer support and community. Fear can feel huge when you're alone. But when you're part of a supportive group, it becomes manageable and even exciting. Being around learners who celebrate mistakes, encourage attempts, and share wins transforms the experience. You feel less pressure, more inspiration, and more energy to take risks. Lena found this to be a game changer. Joining a small English learning group turned anxiety-filled sessions into enjoyable, exciting challenges. Now, let's talk about tracking your transformation over time. Start a journal or a digital log. Every day, note one fearful situation you faced, one action you took despite fear, and one thing you learned or enjoyed. Over weeks and months, you'll see your progress clearly. Your fear will still appear, but excitement and confidence will grow faster. Looking back at your achievements reinforces the idea that fear is temporary, but growth is lasting. Here's a practical exercise to help you right now identify one English situation that scares you. Break it into tiny, manageable steps. Prepare just enough to feel ready. Take the first step, speak one sentence, try one word. Reflect and celebrate what you did. Do this daily, and you'll notice something magical. The fear that once paralyzed you now energizes you. You start anticipating challenges instead of dreading them. Each small win builds momentum, and soon English becomes less intimidating and more exciting. Finally, I want to emphasize one core truth: fear and excitement are two sides of the same coin. Your heart racing, palms sweating, mind racing, these are all signs your brain is ready for action. You get to choose which side of the coin to focus on. Train yourself to see the energy as excitement, not anxiety. With practice, you'll instinctively approach English with curiosity, courage, and joy. The transformation from fear to excitement is a journey, not an instant change. But every small step, every risk taken, every mistake embraced brings you closer. Over time, you'll notice that you're no longer avoiding English. You're seeking it out. You're engaging with it. You're enjoying the process. And that, my friends, is the real magic of turning fear into excitement. So, as we come to the close of today's episode, I want you to take a moment and really reflect. Think about all the times fear has held you back in English, the words you didn't speak, the sentences you didn't try, the moments you avoided. It's normal. Everyone experiences it. But here's the most exciting truth. That same fear can become your greatest source of energy. It's not a stop sign, it's a green light. A signal that something important is happening, that you're about to grow. Remember all the stories we shared today, Lena, taking small steps, Omar experimenting with new words, May turning practice into a game, and Carlos transforming his nervousness into stage energy. What did they all have in common? They didn't wait for fear to disappear. They acknowledged it, embraced it, and consciously chose to see it as excitement. And that's the key. Excitement and fear are two sides of the same coin. You get to decide which one drives your action. The exercises we discussed, preparing in manageable steps, celebrating small wins, visualizing success, reframing mistakes, journaling your progress, and surrounding yourself with supportive peers are all tools to transform fear into excitement. None of these strategies eliminate fear completely, and they don't need to. The goal isn't to remove fear, it's to harness it. Every time you speak a new word, try a new sentence, or step into a conversation, you are teaching your brain that fear is energy, curiosity is power, and learning is an adventure. And here's something I want you to remember: confidence isn't about never feeling fear. It's about showing up, taking action, and learning despite fear. Every small step, every attempt, every mistake embraced builds momentum. Fear gradually becomes excitement, excitement fuels action, and action builds mastery. It's a cycle that compounds over time. So the next time your heart races, your palms sweat, or your mind starts overthinking English, pause and tell yourself, this is excitement. I'm about to learn something new. I'm about to grow. Take one small step. Speak one sentence. Try one word. Reflect and celebrate that small victory. Do it again tomorrow, and again the day after. Over weeks and months, you'll look back and see just how far you've come. English will stop being intimidating. Mistakes will stop being threatening. Conversations, reading, writing, all of it will feel like an adventure. And your fear, it will no longer control you. It will energize you. It will guide you. It will become your secret weapon for growth, confidence, and fluency. So embrace it. Lean into it. Channel it. Turn fear into excitement, one small step at a time. Your journey with English is not just about learning words, it's about transforming the way you approach challenges, the way you perceive yourself, and the way you grow. Every moment of fear is a moment of opportunity. Every challenge is a chance to turn nervousness into joy. And every small action you take is a step closer to fluency and confidence. Remember, your fear is not a barrier, it's the spark. Your excitement is the fire. And your action is what turns that fire into lasting growth. Keep practicing, keep experimenting, and keep celebrating your wins. This is your journey, and it's meant to be exciting, energizing, and empowering. And that, my friends, is how you transform fear into excitement and how you unlock your full potential in English.